spending some time with Jim Oberweis. He is running for the U.S. Senate.
Before we get to senatorial topics, I got to give a great big thank you for sponsoring the speed limit increase bill in Illinois.
Yeah, absolutely.
My family's all Chicago area, Oswego, Darien, so I'm down 39 across 88. That's all 70 the whole way now, so thank you very much.
Yeah, the lead-footed Bertram family.
Oh, yeah,
thanks you. Thanks you.
Real quick story about that. When we got to Springfield 2 years ago, they had a list of bills that had been sponsored by Republicans and had been defeated. And they asked if any of us wanted to sponsor one. Well, since 34 other states already have those limits or higher, I thought, gee, maybe this would be one small way we could bring Illinois into line with the rest of the country. So I said, I'll sponsor that. Our own leadership looked at me and said, well, yes, go ahead, but it has no chance of passing. But that's okay, because you'll learn something about the process. Well, I did learn about the process, and I learned very quickly that this can't be a Republican bill. It has to be a bipartisan bill, and I went out and got several Democrats to come on as co-sponsors, and we ended up passing it by huge, overwhelming majorities after it had been defeated 4 times in a row when sponsored by Republicans in the past. So, one of the criticisms of me in some prior campaigns has been, well, he's just a business guy. He won't be able to work with the other side. But I think that's a good example of the fact that I can work and will work with the other side to accomplish good legislation. And by the way, we've just passed another bill in May that will bring tollways in the Chicago area up to 70 as well, unless they do a study that says that 70 would not be a safe speed. So,
Tri-State, if you're not going 90, you're dead.
I was going to say, 70 is not a safe speed. They'll run right over the back of you. Yeah, you're going to get rear-ended a lot there. Now, this the spirit of working together, reaching across the aisle and all that, it's funny because when you look at the different political parties, you got people who want to do it, but then you have the voters out there who don't necessarily want you to do it because they don't like what's going on, what the other side's going for. They want you to stand against everything they're doing. It's got to be a balancing act to pick and choose what we're going to work together on.
Sure. Riley, look, in my service in Springfield, I got a 100% rating by the American Conservative Union. So I think that tells you that I've been certainly consistent in my voting record. However, at the same time, there's no reason why you can't work early on. What I'm opposed to is trying to push everything to the very last minute and then shut down government or whatever. I will do what Ronald Reagan did, and that is try to work, as he worked with Tip O'Neill, try to work with the other side to get reasonable agreement on important legislation early on instead of it getting pushed to the very end. But having said that, I will not compromise my principles. I will stand for limited government, reasonable environment to grow businesses and create jobs and opportunities for people. And hopefully I'll have an opportunity to help repeal and replace Obamacare with a health care program that will be fairer and better for the majority of Americans and much less expensive for taxpayers.
Jim Oberweis with us, U.S. Senate candidate. It's Riley and Scot on WROK. Perfect segue into my next question, which is regarding Obamacare. It might be one of those issues where there's not a lot of bipartisan agreement, although there were a lot of Democrats in the House that have voted to repeal some portions of Obamacare. Dick Durbin went to the floor of the U.S. Senate a few years ago and said, people are saying you can't keep your health care plan, and Dick Durbin said, you can keep your health care plan. We guarantee it.
That's right.
And we know that's not true.
We have that on videotape.
Yeah.
Or on YouTube, yes.
Yeah, and we know we're hearing this week about rate hikes that are going to be on the way in September, perhaps just before the election. So many things have been delayed, amended, executive orders, the employer mandate's been pushed back, everything. Right. The law that was passed is not the law that's in existence right now. So what do we do with Obamacare come January?
Well, our president can just borrow the power that he wants to do anything, right? That's what he said, or what Durbin said.
Phrase,
that's what Durbin said.
It is absolutely insane. Look, Obamacare is a perfect example of how not to govern. This was one party in total power, and I talked earlier about the importance of having some balance. One party in total power shoving something down the throat of government, and it was bad legislation. It doesn't work. Now, having said that, if I were in Washington, or when I'm in Washington, we'll work for a bipartisan bill that makes more sense. We'll try to take some of the good parts of Obamacare. For example, the ability to buy insurance across state lines makes all kinds of sense. That should never have been prevented. We definitely want to keep that. The idea of keeping young adults on their parents' policy until they reach age 26, I think makes a lot of sense also. We'd like to keep that. And finding some way around pre-existing conditions is also, I think, a good piece of legislation. So those are the positives that we want to bring in. But the idea of government telling us exactly what we can and must buy for our health insurance, that's just fundamentally wrong.
Well, that and the idea that you were told so many things that were absolutely bald-faced lies has tainted the whole process to begin with.
Right, as well as the astronomical cost that this is going to result in.
I got to ask you, shifting gears once again, because our time here is somewhat limited. Our foreign policy, America's foreign policy, is, I think, to be kind, in a shambles. Our friends can't count on us anymore. Our enemies can openly disrespect and expect that we're not going to follow through because we haven't followed through before. What's your take on foreign policy overall and your part in it should you become elected to the Senate?
Look, I think it is critical that America maintain the best trained, best, strongest military force in the world. We have that. We have had that. We have that, and we must maintain that and keep that. Having said that, I don't accept the argument that America should be the world's policeman and should be involved in every skirmish across the world. I think we've learned that we can't settle 1,000-year disputes between groups in the Middle East. And we don't even know who the good guys are. We do know who the bad guys are, but we don't know who the good guys are frequently. And until we really know that and understand the consequences of our actions, in my opinion, we ought to stay out of the action and wait and see. And I think it's great to use our moral authority to the degree that we can. I think it's great to help support democratic countries. Our one friend in the Middle East has been Israel, quite frankly, and I think we want to maintain that friendship and support that friendship. But getting involved in the conflicts in Syria, or as our president did, drawing a line there, and then when people step over the line, doing nothing, that's crazy. I mean, all that does is provide an opportunity for people to totally lack any respect for this country, and that's the worst thing we can possibly do.
Jim Oberweis with us, U.S. Senate candidate. It's Riley and Scot here on WROK. We watch the situation on our southern border now, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors across. The president spent years saying the border's secure, don't worry about it, it's secure as ever. And if you think we need more security, you must want an electrified fence with a moat and alligators in it, and everyone can laugh at those who want more border security.
And give me $3 million, or $3 billion.
Yeah, now he wants
$3 billion.
$4 billion for the problem. What can be done to address the current crisis on the border? What should be done moving forward if we do some sort of immigration reform bill?
Well, as you guys probably know, 10 years ago, I was one of the first people to ring the bell on this very, very serious problem that nobody was paying attention to. Unfortunately, I did a lousy job of it. The TV commercial that we ran didn't express my view. My view was, we have a serious problem. Let's figure out the answer and deal with this problem. And let's have a national debate on how many people we want to allow in this country and make a decision. But to allow unlimited people to enter this country and not even knowing who they are, that was just fundamentally a bad policy, and it tends to breed disregard for the law, which is certainly not good. I think today we still haven't solved the problem. We need, first of all, to secure our border so we know who is coming into this country. I will say that one area that I have slightly modified my view on is Mr. Durbin, first of all, is an amnesty for everybody guy, and I think that would, again, be the worst policy that we could have because it would just make this problem much worse. And I will say, when Ronald Reagan first proposed amnesty back in the 80s, I thought that made sense. We all have... most of us here are descendants of immigrants in this country. Immigration has brought new ideas, new values, and it's helped our country grow and be one of the strongest countries in the world. I'm a strong supporter of immigration, but legal immigration. So I think it's critical that we follow our laws. The one area that I've changed my view on is I do believe that children who were brought here as infants and who've grown up in this country and been a part of our culture for 10, 15 years and consider themselves American, for those kids, I think we should give them a path to citizenship because in this country, we don't punish kids for mistakes of parents. However, the parents who broke the laws should not be given amnesty, should not be given a path to citizenship, should not be cut to the head of the line. If they want to become citizens, apply like anybody else, follow the law. But in this country, we also don't like to break up families. There's something called a non-immigrant visa that would allow those parents to stay here in this country legally, to pay taxes legally, to return to their home countries and come back legally. But I don't believe those people should be given government benefits. They can pay into Social Security. They should not be entitled to receive Social Security. They can pay for other systems like all other Americans do, but should not be able to receive those benefits. That is the penalty for breaking the law. If they want to become citizens, great. Apply like anybody else. Go to the back of the line.
He's Jim Oberweis, candidate for U.S. Senate. I was going to say, before we let you go, what haven't we asked you about? What haven't we hit on? What would you like people to know before we say goodbye?
Well, I guess we talked a little bit about term limits. That's something I feel very strongly on. And if elected, I pledging right now that I will not serve more than 2 terms in the U.S. Senate, and I will propose federal legislation to provide term limits for our federal legislators. I was one of the biggest supporters of the Illinois constitutional term limits. I'm told I was the #1 volunteer circulator of the petition, getting a couple of thousand signatures personally. I'm hoping that will be on the ballot in November. Unless Mr. Madigan is successful in his court challenge, it will be on the ballot in November, and I think will pass overwhelmingly because something like 70% of us as voters support that. So I think that's a very critical issue that will give us a much better form of government.
Quickly, too, you've sharp differences in this race ideologically. You've challenged Senator Durbin to 7 debates around the state before November.
Yes.
Have you heard back from his campaign? What do you think you'll get done?
We asked for 4 debates in Chicago and 3 outside of Chicago. We'd love to have one of those right here in Rockford. That gives voters a chance to see both sides and to make more informed decisions in voting. The answer we've gotten back from, not from him, but from his office is that, well, yes, we'll debate. That's it.
Yeah.
No agreement on numbers, no agreement on times, no agreement on where. And we hope that, again, it's in the best interest of our state and our country to have informed voters. This is one way we can help voters really see the issues. And by the way, I've asked for those debates to be debates instead of candidate forums. So often what they call debates, each candidate gets up and gives their opinion. I believe that a debate should be challenging of issues so that, Scott, if you and I are debating and you say this is your position and I say this is my position, then I should be able to ask you, well, what about this? Have you considered that? Or how about this? And you, in turn, should be able to ask me the same thing so that voters can really see what we're thinking instead of just hearing something that's been memorized by the candidate.
For people who want more information, maybe a campaign contribution as well, where would you steer them?
Our website is jimoberweis.com, Oberweis, jimoberweis.com, and we'd love to have you come to our website, give us your email, and we'll keep you posted on what's going on in the campaign.
We appreciate you taking time out of your busy, and we know, very busy schedule to come in with us this morning.
Thanks much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you, both of you.